Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here with Erin Nakamoto for another World Alternative Media News Live, or whatever we call it, I don't know. But we're going to talk about a few stories today. I figured it would be a good addition to have Erin involved in this because, of course, coming up soon we do have AnarchoVegas, and we've been working on AnarchoVegas. Erin's been working really hard. And we're inviting everyone out to AnarchoVegas July 20th, 21st. 20th is a free Ross kind of event, and there's going to be candles in the dark and all that kind of stuff leading up to it. It's right after Freedom Fest, and then July 21st is going to be the main conference itself, and I'm looking forward to it. But I'm just going to wait for a few people to tune in because out of 126,000 people, we have one person watching. Thank you, Jethro Harmon. When are you coming to Australia? I would hope soon. I have been wanting to go for a while, and it looks beautiful and all that. Apparently, I cannot. According to most of our commenters, I do not know how to say the names of the cities in Australia. Melbourne. It's Melbourne, not Melbourne, I've been told. Okay, we got Mr. Bullens. Hey, just a question. Says hi from San Antonio, Texas. Travis Sanders says hi. Rika, the hopeful voluntarist, our most common viewer. I'm always glad to see her. 28 watching, LOL. Well, now it says 21, so obviously I'm boring some people here. And then Kingsley Edwards waved at us. Anyway, Giselle Hetu, hi from Ottawa. Okay, we're going to get to the news right away. But first, how are you doing, Erin?
I'm good. This is my first live video with you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm super excited.
All right. So, what's that sign behind you, says Kingsley? It says AnarchoVegas on it. Bet on Anarchy, which I have to give all the credit to Dan Dix of Press for Truth. He sent me a message. You should say bet on Anarchy. He's kind of joking around, and we just kind of stole it from him.
We kind of ran with it, so.
Yeah, it went well. It's good for Las Vegas, anyway. Jethro Harmon, Harmon. Love your work, guys. Thank you very much. And Tony K, hello from Chilliwack, BC. All right, some more Canucks joining us today. So anyway, if I read all the comments, this will take all day. We will get back to lots of comments soon, but we're going to talk about some news stories today, as per usual. And I think it's going to be good to have Erin's insight on a lot of these issues as well. What we usually do here at WAM as far as these news stories go is I open it up, we look at an article, we give our thoughts on it, we give our insights on it from an independent media angle on a lot of these more mainstream media stories, or stories that just aren't talked about at all. That's another thing. And then we wrap it up, but don't go anywhere when I sign off because I'm going to take those videos and repost them later on separately. So don't go running away. We will be back to answer questions and comments. Super chats go to the top. It's going to be hard to read all of the comments, and the super chats help keep us alive at World Alternative Media. And before I get into the news story, this is our Bitcoin address. And again, that really helps keep us alive. Cryptocurrency is a big lifesaver, and we're going to go into that a lot later on. The Economic Truth says right account now. I don't know what you mean, John, but okay. Anyway.
Hey, John.
So, oh, I see. He commented on his other account. Okay. Anyway, we're going to get into the news here. So bear with us. I'm going to load up an article ready to go. And actually, I think crypto will be the best thing to start off with. So let's get right to this. All right. As we see this news out of ccn.com, it says, sell the house, car, and kids. Buy Litecoin. CNBC host goes crypto crazy. And as the article goes into, crypto mania has once again gripped mainstream financial outlets. CNBC's Fast Money panel were beside themselves yesterday as they analyzed Bitcoin and Litecoin's parabolic rise in recent months.
I love that.
Me too. The panel whooped and cheered at the mention of Litecoin's 400% price rise. The anchor ended the segment yelling, sell the house, sell the car, sell the kids, buy Litecoin. Now, I don't endorse selling your children, folks, but I would say...
But definitely sell your assets.
Yes, please. Again, it's great to see stories where we have, these people, after a 400% rise in something, people saying buy, buy, buy. It says a lot about the market and the difference between this and, the stock market. And Litecoin up 416% from lows. The CNBC panel are right to be impressed. After hitting a low of 22.93 back in December, we all remember that. It was a very sad day. Litecoin has surged back to $118.15 in May. It's a meteoric rise. Oh, and this article is bouncing around. Anyway, it's a meteoric rise of 416% that dwarfs even Bitcoin's resurgence. As CCN reported, the catalysts for this jump are numerous. On-chain metrics have strengthened. The number of Litecoin addresses have grown rapidly in 2019, and a handful of celebrity endorsements have raised the coin's profile. And you could see that meteoric rise right here. And look, first of all, I'm not going to go into what the mainstream media thinks is coming next for Litecoin, and honestly, I don't care. But I think it says a lot about the current market that we're in that, look, when it's a bear market, especially the beginning of a bear market, we have all the mainstream media saying it's dead, it's gone, it's over. And then in a bull market, everyone says, we're on to the cusp of something great, the next big revolution. And I think it's important that we all get back to basics and try to understand the currency itself and the market itself. But what do you think, before we get into more on the crypto side of things, Erin, what do you think about the recent rise of Litecoin, the recent kind of bounce with cryptocurrency? Because, I mean, in the last month alone with Bitcoin, it's gone up over 65%.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the article itself said that they saw a very, very high increase of Litecoin wallets. And in December, when it hit that all-time low, I sat there and I was like, Litecoin's dead, you know?
Yeah.
And I was one of those people. And I also was one of those people who opened up a Litecoin wallet in 2019. So I don't know. I think the crypto markets are definitely coming back. There was like a period where I was a little nervous. I wasn't quite sure if we would make it out of that extended bear market.
It seemed like forever. It seemed like a million years.
Well, it's just like you don't know if it's a dead cat bounce. Like you don't know if it's going to just stay and just rise.
We got tricked so many times in the bear market, and it still is a bear market. Let's be clear. I mean, a friend of mine, Paul Poi of Edge Wallet, mentioned recently at one of your Bitcoin meetups, actually in Las Vegas, that it's not a bull market until we reach the all-time highs again and bounce up above that. But it can be bullish, and of course, it's a subjective argument to have. But and nonetheless, like, look, before I get into more news on this, because we are going to go into how people are trying to co-opt this, big corporations, governments, central banks, etc. But I do want to mention, for those of you that I know are commenting right now, I cannot see the chat at this moment, but I know are commenting on our original live stream here. Bitcoin is a mark of the beast. It's all Ponzi scheme. It's this or that. It's fiat. First of all, fiat means by fiat, by law, by force. It means it's legal tender laws. It cannot be fiat. It literally cannot, by definition, be fiat unless the U.S. government was like, today we're going to make Bitcoin the currency of the United States. That's not going to happen. It wouldn't benefit them. It's ridiculous. And on top of that, we have to understand the difference between right and wrong. So you can have food that's poisoned. You can have food that's good and sustains you. It doesn't mean that all food is bad because some food might be poisoned. You need it. You need that food to sustain yourself. So there's good and bad. I often make the mention of, you could use a gun to kill a whole bunch of innocent people, but you could use that same gun to save all those people from being killed. And the same goes for the blockchain. If government controls a blockchain, if central banks control a blockchain, it's centralized. If it's centralized, you can use it to enslave humanity. And if it's decentralized, you can use it to overthrow that which enslaves humanity. So let's be clear about that. I know people are still going to say, no, you're wrong, and fine, we all have our views in life.
But just look into decentralized technology. Yeah. Just look into it.
Exactly. And, I'm a big fan of ensuring my wealth in many different ways and diversifying. But anyway, I'm going to get on to the next article here, and it says Bitcoin price $10,000 in 2 weeks, says analysts, and that's something that I've been saying for a while. But again, it's impossible to perfectly match it to a number. I think it's possible for Bitcoin to still go down to $5,000. That's my lowest. I think I'll go, and I might be bit in the butt for that one. But honestly, I think that this is as far as it'll go down after this point. But it's more likely to see $10,000 in the next 2 weeks, and especially in the next month. $7,000 is still possible. a very, very likely possibility.
How high do you think it'll go?
How high? Like in the next bull market?
Yeah.
Well, in the next bull market, that assumes that it's over 20,000. And I honestly think there's going to be a lot of resistance around 25,000, especially, 20 to 25,000. There's going to be a lot of, it's going to be a shakeup in the market. But we have to remember that after the bull market several years ago, going into 2017's bear market, February 2017, we saw $900 Bitcoin. And with $900 Bitcoin, we saw it rise meteorically, as the last article mentioned, to $20,000. Some people say 19,000, some people say 21,000. It depends how you judge it. But we saw it fall like a rock, and it was a bad day for all of us. December 18th, 2017, never forget. But I do believe that going forward, we are likely to see as much as 100,000 far into the future. It depends, because Bitcoin, there's problems with Bitcoin, and there's problems with scalability. So it depends. Honestly, I see Bitcoin being king for a long way down the road, but I think one of these days we probably will be saying this other cryptocurrency.
I think that's inevitable. I think as technology evolves, we're definitely going to see a new king.
Oh, absolutely. Eventually, and even blockchain will be replaced at some point. That's the way the market works. We can't say in 300 years we're still going to be using the blockchain. The blockchain is the first step in this massive rollout of this new technology, and hopefully decentralized. So we'll see about that. But let's get into the co-opting of this movement. Facebook introduces global coin, a cryptocurrency, more PayPal than Bitcoin. It's a correct headline for sure. This is something that has been on a lot of people's radar lately. A lot of people have been talking about global coin. And suffice to say, it's not Bitcoin. I mean, it's the attempt to utilize the popular trend in people flooding to Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, EOS, all these other cryptocurrencies. And honestly, it's Facebook coin. Can anyone trust a Facebook coin? We've talked about it 2 years ago when they talked about in the last bull market possibly rolling this out at the same time as banning crypto related ads, because we can't think for ourselves because a few bad ICOs paid for ad time.
Right, but you can go to the nearest casino and drop all your money on black.
Exactly. And then the government takes all of it.
Yeah.
Though it does mean cheap flights in Vegas, so let's not bash the stupid tax too much. But anyway, there's a lot of conversations happening around this idea of Facebook releasing their cryptocurrency. Of course, we have to remember that Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, has helped China unroll its social credit programs, its facial recognition programs, pushing into a cashless society that's centralized, again, differing from what so many of us are trying to create here.
Which is a decentralized world. But tell us, do you trust Mark Zuckerberg?
I think very few people trust him at this point. I mean, even it's the same with YouTube. It's even gay rights stuff is being taken down and demonetized and banned at the same time as gun rights stuff is. It's like they're attacking both sides, all while
as
real
long as
journalists...
it fits in there, or as long as it doesn't fit into their agenda, then...
Exactly.
They just don't want to learn anything about it. They don't want to hear anything about it.
This is at the same time as people like Julian Assange are being thrown in jail and potentially facing over 100 or almost 200 years in prison. It's ridiculous. Why do you even put someone in jail for 200 years? It makes no sense. It's ridiculous. Anyway, as this article from CoinDesk says, Project Libra, everything we know about Facebook's cryptocurrency, and as it kind of goes into here, I'm not going to read all of it because it would be exhausting and will bore you all. But anyway, the world's biggest social media company appears dead set on launching its own cryptocurrency. Facebook has yet to announce plans publicly, but media reports on its crypto ambitions have emerged over the past 6 months, painting a partial picture of how the social network wants to capitalize on blockchain technology. Let me just add, I was talking about Facebook unrolling this and rumors about this over 2 years ago. So all these mainstream medias that are just starting to talk about it in the last few months or past 6 months, it
was only a matter of time for them to set up a currency that is as easy to, I think Zuckerberg mentioned it in this article. He wants to create a payment system that's easy as sending us a picture.
Exactly.
Or receiving a picture.
Yeah. So, and I agree that we need that, but not by Facebook.
Not by Facebook.
I don't think people are going to bite. But in short, a team led by former PayPal president David Marcus, as this article says, is building an asset-backed cryptocurrency, one designed to operate within the company's existing messaging infrastructure, WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook Messenger. And let me just add that WhatsApp has been doing terrible lately. People have been flocking away from it in mass because because WhatsApp was always about not having advertisements. Their former CEOs talked about how if there's advertisements on the platform, it's not the product, you're the product. And when Mark Zuckerberg bought WhatsApp and Facebook bought WhatsApp, what was it, $19 billion? I can see why they wanted to put ads on, but they've so overdone it, and people have left Facebook from the high up ranks saying Mark Zuckerberg is just trying to make a bunch of money, squeeze as much money out of the app as possible. And it shows because countless people are running away from WhatsApp right now, and it's not working out too well for them. But anyway, carrying on, it says, the most recent news on the project comes from the BBC, with the British outlet reporting that the cryptocurrency called Globalcoin internally will launch in about a dozen countries by the first quarter of 2020. However, the signs that Mark Zuckerberg's company wanted to diversify into fintech first materialized as far back as 2017. Man, we're both having trouble saying Zuckerberg's name today.
I know.
Anyway.
Maybe it's a sign we just shouldn't talk about him.
Yeah, I agree. But we'll give him this anyway. Below is a rundown of what is known so far about Facebook's cryptocurrency, and shows going back to 2017, very outdated information. David Marcus, head of Messenger at Facebook, will be joining Coinbase's board. Coinbase's board. All right. I got that down a little bit. I don't have to read all that. August 2018, Facebook's Marcus steps down from Coinbase's board. Coinbase. All right.
Not Coinboard.
And then December 2018, Facebook is developing a cryptocurrency for WhatsApp transfers, sources say. Okay, so there's a lot of talk about creating stable coins and all that kind of stuff. Stable coins, the whole point was to avoid, be able to money launder. Honestly, I'm being completely honest here. The idea is that instead of trading out of cryptocurrencies and being taxed on it, you could use a stable coin so you didn't have to be taxed. But that all was thrown under the bus in January 2018 with the IRS's amendment on tax code.
That and the volatility.
Yeah, well, absolutely. But I mean, with things like Tether, it's taxable event every time you trade in and out of it now, if people declare it. So yeah, I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose.
Don't use Tether.
No, huge problems there. February 2019, Facebook makes first blockchain acquisition with Chainspace, sources say. And Facebook and Telegram are hoping to succeed where Bitcoin failed. I don't need to read all this. You guys get the point. I'm just going to go over the headlines here. April 2019. Facebook's future is private, but also driven by payments and commerce. I don't know if it's private. They're begging government to regulate it.
Oh my gosh. They just steal all your data and sell it to third-party companies.
Including the Chinese, who are unrolling their global centrally planned.
But it's totally private also.
Yeah, totally.
Don't worry.
With all their government grants. Anyway, May 2019, Wall Street Journal, Facebook building cryptocurrency-based payment system. And, of course, that brings us to today. Facebook forms Swiss fintech firm with payments focus, and Facebook plans to launch global coin, not currency in 2020. Anyway, carrying on, as this article correctly points out, Facebook's aging users and broke teams will reject global coin, as says report, and they show a lot of demographics here. And the Facebook usership. And honestly, most young people I know don't use Facebook anymore.
No, Facebook lost 15 million users within the last couple of years.
Well, I mean, thank God in a way. I think it's convenient. I use it. I like to use it. But for all the right reasons,
but that's because everybody's on it. If you try to go to other platforms, the problem is that everyone is just on Facebook. And they don't follow you to these platforms, so there's nothing really to see on these platforms. But that's going to change soon.
Well, honestly, Erin, if I were, if STEEMIT had a whole bunch of people on it that were of different viewpoints and not all like the same, like echo chamber,
yeah,
and there weren't obvious problems with STEEMIT, I would be going to STEEMIT and not posting on Facebook anymore. But it's impossible for me to promote World Alternative Media and get us the viewership we need outside of the echo chamber without Facebook at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. It's a huge monopoly, as is YouTube, as is Twitter and Instagram, and it's really hard to escape. But we're in this kind of situation.
And it doesn't help that they totally just shadow ban you and mess with your income there.
Absolutely. It's absolutely horrific what we're dealing with. Honestly, I really have to point out that, again, we have Julian Assange, who is in prison. We have Chelsea Manning, who's in prison for sharing information. But we are the criminals. We are the enemies of mankind, sharing information freely. And yet, I was just banned from Facebook for several days. Why? Because a guy threatened to behead me and kill me, dismember me, bury me with 40 comments on one of my posts. And then I responded, "Get some help, dude." And I got banned for hate speech for 3 days. This is an example of, like, it's old guard. People are flocking away from Facebook. We are seeing the end of it. It's just, how long will it last? How long until people break out of this paradigm of these massive monopoly social medias, and at the same time don't fall for this cryptocurrency quote unquote movement by the bankers, elites, and Facebooks of the world, when we have truly decentralized, properly, fundamentally useful cryptocurrencies out there that we can utilize to save ourselves, ensure our wealth, and diversify among things like gold and silver.
Have you seen Gemini's ads that say we need regulations?
I know. See, there's these people in this, like, the whole idea of cryptocurrency was crypto anarchy. It was at the end of the financial crisis.
Right,
people
it's taking
came out with
control
this.
of your freedom, your funds, your money, and just doing what you want with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we will
get rid of the third-party companies.
We need to get rid of them, and we need to create our own. But honestly, I don't think we will be able to bring it to the next level or cater to most individuals by saying it's cryptocurrency based and blockchain based. We need to we need people to unwittingly kind of get into this new idea, like the same way that the elites bring us this cashless, technocratic, super state, nanny state, police state society under the guise of convenience. We need to bring them the decentralized world under the guise of convenience. Because honestly, we cannot convince everyone. Instead of convincing everyone, we need to unroll the technology and bring it to the next level. And we will with cryptocurrency if we make it convenient for everyone and not pull it into that nerdy world where it's only useful to people who like the programmers, like built by programmers for programmers. We need built by programmers for users.
Float. That's so funny.
Well, exactly.
That's exactly what we say.
Well, there is the initiative that you and Kingsley are doing regarding Float, which I'm very excited about, which is going to help a lot of independent media, as you guys will be launching soon. And that's FLOTE, if anyone wants to check that out. And we will be doing lots of reports and interviews regarding Float in the near future. I think it's going to be of great help to independent medias that are heavily shadow banned and hurt financially, because if you can hurt someone financially and stop them from being able to make any money at all, you can stop their initiative from actually being able to take hold. And if you stop the spread of information, you stop people from getting that information out, that free information movement, which has been changing the world dramatically, then you really we lose the information war. So we need individuals to help us out. We need people to come up with great new innovations on the market to stop this problem of complete centralization, complete co-opting of our movements, and complete control of the narrative. So anyway, we're going to sign out of this report. But until next time, thanks, Erin. This is Josh Sigurdson and Erin Nakamoto signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth. Be the change. All right, guys, don't go anywhere. We're still here. This was I'm glad that we didn't end up reading any comments here during that report.
I almost did. I was so close. Someone said Facebook was better off without Josh, and I was going to say,
yeah, thanks, Kingsley.
It was, but I still got berated with text saying, write this on Facebook and tag me so my viewers can see it.
Well, come on. It was so ridiculous to get banned off of Facebook for literally just saying, get some help, dude, to someone.
That is crazy. And the guy who was threatening you and threatening to behead you and stuff was not even banned. He was still allowed on. That's the crazy part.
And his Facebook page is just covered in images of women from far away that he's taking with his cell phone, not even a good camera, zooming in. He's zooming in with his cell phone and taking pictures of women walking from far away. This guy's obviously dangerous. And he wrote 40 comments on my post saying he was gonna dismember me.
Clearly unstable.
And my post was literally, and this is what my post said: "Hey, is anyone in Miami down to hang out?" And this is in January. And this guy just writes 40 comments about how he's gonna find me and kill me, and I'm like, okay, all right.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so we're gonna get into another news story. A reminder to Erin. Let's not read any comments while we're doing the reports, just because I have to cut it out and post it after. I'm
okay.
all right. Rika the Hopeful Volunteer says, what a psycho. I completely agree with that. Oh, and we got a super chat from The Economic Truth. Who is the best WAM contributor? Okay, well, I'm not a contributor. I'm the owner, so I don't know. You have to compete with Tim and Chris Rice, John, so go for that. But anyway.
My vote's on you.
Yeah. I'm not. It's like choosing your favorite children. Anyway, so
my parents did that.
Yeah, well, that's sad. I'm sorry to hear.
It was always me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good for you anyway. Let's see. We got Revel Nona says super chat next time, dude. I'm broke. Don't worry. If you are broke, please do not send me a super chat because honestly, I don't want. I feel bad if someone's gonna send me money. While they're broke, just don't. I appreciate it. I appreciate I appreciate your want to help us out. Help us out if you're not broke or not completely
Help yourself.
broke.
Help
Yes.
yourself first.
Anyway.
Ben Swan working on a new platform. Yep, he is working on
Isagoria,
yeah. I don't know when that's going to launch, though.
He said second quarter 2019, so that's coming up soon. I think it was closer to September, though. So
They've been working on that for a long time. I'm excited to kind of see what it's about and what it looks like.
Crossed, yeah. Anyway, so we're going to get into our next report, and I must mention, Erin, your house is 500 degrees right now. I'm dying here. But anyway, let's get into the next report.
Well, if you
here.
didn't wear the same shirt every day.
Yeah, well, yeah. Anyway, let's see. We got a few articles to go into. I'm going to get into this one. Challenge myself because I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to say when I get into it. So this will be fun for all of us. Again, don't go away after we sign out of this report. We will still be here. This will be cut out and reposted later as well. You're watching us live.
I promise there will be plenty of entertainment in between stories.
Yes, and honestly, I mean, you get to watch us in a complete train wreck live, so that's good for you guys. I might cut some stuff later when I repost it. But anyway.
We need some booze or something.
Oh, please no. Anyway, let's get into the next report. So just give us a second to cut to it. All right. As this Yahoo Finance article says, China gears up to weaponize rare earths in trade war. Terrible title, Yahoo. They're talking about rare earth minerals, just to make that completely clear to everyone. But anyway, it shows this pie chart here. A big share, about 80% of U.S. rare earths supplies come from China. And this is going to be a huge hit to the U.S. economy and the U.S. markets. But anyway, as the article goes into, it says Beijing is gearing up to use its dominance of rare earths to hit back in its deepening trade war with Washington. A flurry of Chinese media reports on Wednesday, including an editorial in the flagship newspaper of the Communist Party, raised the prospect of Beijing cutting exports of the commodities that are critical in defense, energy, electronics, and automobile sectors. The world's biggest producer, China, supplies about 80% of U.S. imports of rare earths, which are used in a host of applications from smartphones to electric vehicles and wind turbines. The threat to weaponize strategic materials ratchets up the tension between the world's two biggest economies before an expected meeting between President Xi Jinping and Donald Trump at the G20 meeting next month.
Good job.
Thank you. It shows how China is weighing its options after the U.S. blacklisted Huawei Technologies Co. cutting off the supply of American components it needs to make its smartphones and networking gear. And I quote, China, as the dominant producer of rare earths, has shown in the past that it can use rare earths as a bargaining chip when it comes to multilateral negotiations, said George Bauk, Chief Executive Officer of Northern Minerals Limited, which is producing rare earth carbonate from a pilot-scale project in Western Australia. The U.S. shouldn't underestimate China's ability to fight the trade war. The People's Daily said in an editorial Wednesday that used some historically significant language on the weight of China's intent. So let's, before we get any further into this, I do want to mention that obviously China has a lot to say when it comes to rare earth minerals. They have a lot to say when it comes to gold, copper, iron, all that kind of stuff. They have basically bought up most of Africa, doing what the IMF has done, while the U.S. likes to just bomb countries and take them over. China bombs them economically. So, for example, they loan a bunch of money to countries in Africa, and then those African companies can't pay it back, much like the IMF does with lots of countries throughout the world. And then China basically takes over these countries, takes over their public services, quote unquote, and basically owns them. And look, I am an anarchist. I'm against these governments, one side or the other. And obviously, China did have a big hand up in the game for many years, thanks to U.S. initiatives like the Trilateral Commission back in the 1970s under Zbigniew Brzezinski, pushing for an alliance with China that would create a massive trade ground for China to lift themselves up in the world, kind of like a guinea pig state of communism and fascism mixed together. It's a weird situation, and that goes into North Korea as well, but we won't get into all that. That just goes off into a different realm. But I did want to mention this in context because at the same time as all this is happening, we do have a lot of these issues like the trade war, the tariffs, the massive their taxes on people, guys. I mean, this is a huge problem because we have this government that claims to be quote-unquote conservative, or conservative leading anyway, with these socialist policies, which end up being bigger taxes on American people while they say they're cutting taxes. At the same time, all these tariffs, who pays for these tariffs? Well, Americans. Sure, it hurts China, and strategically one might say that there is an argument for it, but at the same time, you have the U.S. consumer paying more for these products now, and it hurts a lot of industries that are trying to produce in the United States but have little, factories in China that help with certain parts of their, or components to their product. And then you have articles like this: Trump administration unveils $16 billion bailout to farmers hurt by China trade war. So think about this for a second. Cuts taxes a little bit, and then at the same time pushes these tariffs, which end up becoming taxes on American people. And then, it hurts a bunch of farmers, so let's bring in a $16 billion bailout, which comes from U.S. taxpayers, so stolen funds, and obviously unsustainable. But where does this money go? Well, that's a big question. Well, I think we have found out, as this Los Angeles Times article says, and I realize they're biased, but we'll get into it in a moment. Facts are facts. Rich farmers, not mom and pop farms, will collect most of Trump's tariff bailout. And as this article says, the lone valiant farmer struggling to eke an existence from his hard scrabble farm. That's the image of President Trump wants you to think about when contemplating the $28 billion now in bailouts he's spending to cover farm losses from his trade war. So it's gone way up. It's almost doubled. Think again, the vast majority of the dollars flowing to the agricultural industry via the bailouts is likely to go to farms with annual revenues of several $1 million. Most of them are major beneficiaries of federal crop support programs that steer billions in subsidies and low-price crop insurance, including insurance that already covers some of their losses in the trade war. Consider one such recipient. He's Senator Chuck Grassley, Republican from Iowa, whose family farm, run mostly by his son Robin and grandson Patrick, collected $1.6 million in government subsidies in 1995 to 2017, according to a database compiled by the Environmental Working Group. The farm grows corn and soybeans. Now, I want to cut in for a moment and say, while we do have a lot of subsidies, we also have to see the difference between subsidies and tax cuts or tax allowances. So they're not stolen from as much. So there's a big difference between stealing from people to give to people and then not being stolen from as much. So I want to make that completely clear, tax incentives and all that kind of stuff. But as it goes on to say, Grassley applied for a share of the first $12 billion government bailout announced last year. Of course, according to spokesman, he'll be applying for a piece of the additional $16 billion bailout Trump announced last week. He's entirely unabashed about having his palm out to be greased by a program over which he has legislative oversight. His spokesman, Michael Zona, told the Des Moines Register that he receives no special treatment in the distribution of the government's largesse. So I want to go into this a bit with you, Erin. And by the way, I didn't mention at the beginning of the video here, we're joined by Erin Nakamoto here. And I want to talk a little bit about this because, look, There's enough mainstream media out there bashing Trump for nonsense. Let's talk about the real issues here. The conservative that's pushing socialist policies that no one's talking about because all you see is nonsense, Russian collusion BS from the mainstream media. So, Erin, what do you think about this weird kind of paradigm between conservatives, socialists, left, right, subsidies, tax breaks for some, while at the same time massive socialist policies on the other side?
I think it's ridiculous, and with this article especially, like Trump is bailing out these people, and all of this money is flooding into these agricultural companies.
Giants, yeah.
And most of these companies are the companies that are feeding us and our children GMO foods.
Yeah.
I mean,
crap, yes.
Like, the government is not giving farmers who actually produce good organic foods for us and our kids. Like, they're giving it to just the worst companies out there.
This is literally what government does all the time. They drive small businesses out of the market via regulations,
and why
taxes.
would they? Why would they want to feed us healthy foods?
Yeah, I know. Well, it helps the medical system, which they also prop up via the hand of government, like the big pharma companies.
It's all connected.
Yeah, it's all connected. The more unhealthy the populace, the more dependent, weak, and stupid the populace, the better slaves we are for the state. And this has nothing to do with necessarily Trump. It's everything to do with the government in general, the military-industrial complex, the big pharma companies, this initiative, this push to make all of us stupid and dependent slaves. And we are all cattle on the farm unless we disobey. And what are we doing to disobey? Are we eating healthy? Most of us are not. I have my own problems with eating healthy. I'll go and try to eat healthy for a while, and then I'm like, oh, never mind. I'm going to enjoy
You should have read our text the other night about him driving around the city to find pizza.
Well, I need to find... I was just in Mauritania for a while. I need good food. I was eating leaves with vinegar for that's what you eat as a vegan, so I know how you feel now. But anyway, so yeah, we can all do a lot to up our healthy food intake. We can all do a lot to disobey the state in any way we can, and not be dependent.
And we have to call people out. That congressman that basically has no problem asking for part of that $16 billion bailout, that's ridiculous. And us as we the people, we need to call stuff like that out.
Yeah, Chuck Grassley, oh man. And the article goes into a lot more about this issue as well, but I know that it's a Los Angeles Times, and I realize that obviously they're a California based paper, and they're going to have extra, bias against someone like Donald Trump. But I just find that these stories always go to the back of the newspaper rather than the nonsense stories about Trump that I think is meant to divide people. They want certain people on the right to see it as nonsense so that they are extra supportive of Trump, and then they want the left to be, babbling on about
who he has sex with.
Yeah, and about the most nonsense story that don't mean anything, and it pushes people against each other perfectly. It creates that divide and conquer agenda, and it plays out before us, and that goes into the same thing as the unhealthy foods, the dependency of the masses, the banking system, the military-industrial complex, big pharma, and it just goes on and on forever. So again, I think that it's important that we don't look at these things with rose-colored glasses. We need to analyze these stories as much as we can and try to see cui bono, who benefits from the news stories, from what's trending on Twitter, what's trending on Facebook, what we see most in the mainstream media, and what we don't see enough of. And it's a lot of these issues like, hey, Trump is actually pushing a lot of socialist policies. Why are we not talking about this? Oh, well, first of all, for a media like myself, to talk about it, I'll just lose a bunch of subscribers if I talk about it because I'm either supposed to toe one line or the other. And it's always been that way.
And don't forget...
Bush, Obama, Trump.
Don't forget that YouTube will heavily censor you and demonetize your channel. And
yeah, YouTube heavily demonetizes and censors videos and shadow bans videos where I actually go after Trump over real things. Like he says, I'm pulling out of Syria. Everyone's like, great. And I'm like, let's look closer at this. He's keeping all these troops there. And then a month later, it comes out, actually, we're going to keep troops in Syria because we need to protect Israel and protect the world. That's his quote exactly. Mm-hmm. And no one covers it. No medias cover it except for the show that he was on. It was on CBS. He said it on the show, but never really got brought up by many people after that. And where is it all these months later? All these people that said they were praising Trump for pulling out of Syria there's still people there.
That was honestly his campaign strategy is, we're going to bring the troops home. And how many troops are now going into battle in Iraq?
In Iran, I'm
sorry.
In Iraq, technically, it's surrounding the border. And we're going to be going into that in another report soon. But it's just another example of we're only told what they want us to know about. We're only going to be privy to the information that benefits the state, the media, the banking system, etc., whatever helps these people that are in control. Who is in control? I don't know. It's not us.
But that's the importance of independent media, and why we need your help.
Yeah, more than ever, especially as we're being heavily shadow banned, and it's a lot to reach you guys these days. Let's put it that way. Every now and then a video will get through the algorithm, but most videos are not, and I've never seen it worse. I've been on YouTube since 2005. I've never seen it worse. So anyway, we have to do whatever we can to help, if not myself, Press for Truth, We Are Change, all these other independent medias, and bring that information to the populace in any way we can, because obviously they're desperate, they're getting desperate, they're scared when they're desperately trying to shadow ban everyone that talks about something that isn't within the mainstream view. And that goes for both sides of the spectrum, within the collectivist paradigm of politics, and then outside, as well as voluntarists, etc. So anyway, and you can see AnarchoVegas, we'll be talking about this stuff as well. It's always that paradigm of central planning, collectivism, government control of the populace. Let's break free from that and be responsible, independent, free human beings.
And empower each other. Exactly.
And exactly what we are going to do. And I have optimism, and I think we will succeed. So anyway, until next time, thanks, Erin. This is Josh Sigurdson and Erin Nakamoto signing up from World Alternative Media. Find the truth. Be the change. All right, guys. Again, don't go anywhere. I have to repeat every single time, because it is kind of awkward, but it's the best way to do this, to record it live, and then make sure to be able to talk with all of you as well. Big Zini says, State of Israel. There's more to it than Israel. There's Saudi Arabia and China as well. There's a lot of these big censors coming into it. It's government in general. It's not, a certain straw man in place of, the idea. It's the idea itself. You can be the Israeli government and be censoring things and manipulating things, but you could also be the Saudi government doing the same thing, and China and the United States, etc. It's not the person, it's the idea. And that is the issue with Trump as well. It's not Trump, it's the idea. One way or another, it will succeed as long as we keep falling for this false paradigm of statism. But let's see. And Dana says, fun fact. Oh, he scrolled up on the screen there. Fun fact. Persia changed its name to Iran as a reference to the land of the Aryans. Well, actually, the Aryan race technically came from Iran. In my research of ancient civilizations, I found that out. Very interesting. Kingsley says Josh could just record intro and outro, but no, he likes saluting to the camera too
much. It is fun. I gotta give you that.
You should try it sometimes. You're not popular enough to be here on WAM today. He's in the other room right now. Anyway, we can only fit so many people on the camera, and Kingsley's been on WAM twice this last month. So
everyone's tired of seeing your face.
We're good. Anyway, we got some comments coming up. Is that Satoshi Nakamoto's daughter? She wishes.
I do wish, actually.
We were talking earlier today on Facebook. Who does she love more, Kingsley or Satoshi Nakamoto? That's a tough battle between two. I have absolutely no idea what Satoshi Nakamoto looks like.
It changes day to day. I got to be honest.
Yeah. Jethro Harmon says we are the light. I would agree very much with that. We have. Silver Slave 333 says mint a silver coin, WAM coins. I will buy some. We've been talking about that for a while. Smart media tokens, possibly. I am not a good enough tech person to release a WAM coin and do a good job of it, so it would have to be smart media tokens or something. But nonetheless, it's an idea. I think it's a good one, and we've been talking about it for 4 years already.
So just get it done.
Yeah, well, I don't know how to do that. Someone else has to do it for me.
That's why you got to network and talk to people.
Yeah, well. Anyway, Silver Slave 333 says cryptos will be cornered. It depends what do you mean, because maybe some will. You can't just say thousands of cryptos will be cornered. I don't know what that means. No bro physical silver coins. I love silver, I love gold, but you need to diversify, and physical isn't, is part of the use case for silver and gold. But that doesn't mean that that is what value is surrounding. I mean, it's subjective. Value is subjective. It can only be subjective because, I mean, for example, you look at the colonists that went to a lot of these islands, these tropical islands hundreds of years ago, and took the pearls from these people, and these people on the island were like, I don't want these pearls. So they're like, yeah, they sold it for a small amount of food and stuff like that. And these colonists brought back the pearls to their society and sold them for like 10,000 times what they bought them for. And this is an example of subjective value. Monkeys can't use gold. Giraffes can't use gold. We can, but even still, you look at a Mark Dice video going down the street trying to give people a chocolate bar or silver, and most people pick the chocolate bar.
I think, there was one person who chose the silver.
And that doesn't mean that the silver isn't valuable. That just means that those people don't value silver. And there comes the lesson that we have been trying to talk about here, is the subjectivity of value, and that plays into something like cryptocurrency as well. Most cryptos are completely worthless, but many of them are amazing and are changing the world forever, and it has nothing to do with physicality. It has to do with use case, scarcity, demand, the combination of all these things that make them valuable. So while Ripple has a low value because there's a billion trillion of them, with Bitcoin there's 21 million that will ever be created by the year 2140. And we can talk about people trying to put promissory notes on this stuff as well, but it wouldn't benefit the state very much. They might as well just create a cashless currency that is routed through the banks. Anyway.
Someone said, Erin, why are women slow to Bitcoin compared to men?
It's a good question.
I mean, I think just lack of interest. I know many women in the space who are getting more and more involved in crypto and Bitcoin, and it's great to see. I hate all these women in blockchain panels because it drives me nuts. People being like, what can we do to get women more involved in blockchain? It's like, they have to have the interest.
If that's a question, it'll never be solved. No. Because it's the same thing.
If you turn it into a gender thing, it goes nowhere, Women, men, if the interest is there, they're going to learn.
Well, and see, this is an issue with YouTube analytics too, as in independent media. It's like, if it's a channel run by a guy, it's most likely to get viewed by guys. If it's a channel run by a woman, it's most likely to be viewed by guys. I mean, that's just one of the parts of it's part of our culture. Look, I mean, there is a deep-rooted reason for a lot of this, and I look at everyone as individuals, but there is a generalized reason for a lot of this, and it is interest. It is statistical interest in certain topics and ideas, and that goes for crypto, that goes for politics or apolitics, that goes for all of these issues. Women statistically are just not as interested in these issues as they are in you watching The Bachelorette. So yeah, I mean, even she's guilty of this. So
it is my one guilty pleasure. Can a girl have one guilty pleasure?
Yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah, more than one. But I mean, this is an issue that we see a lot in this space and outside of the space. I mean, this pertains to leftists as well and people on the right as well. I mean, this is just a statistical issue of men being more statistically likely to come in as someone that wants to take charge of things, right? And, they see politics as an issue of power, and that is just a scientific, natural thing that men have an instinct to go after. Yeah. And then, there's still, I think it's 30-something% of our audience are women, but it used to be 12% until we started talking about crypto, and I actually think crypto actually helped bring more women in to it. But it's still an issue. Obviously, the majority are men, and that's going to be an issue as long as we, as long as nature takes hold. It's always going to be an issue. So there's nothing that we can really say or put on the table that will solve the issue. We just gotta hope that women take more control of their life. And again, this is another issue of government. It happens with a lot of communities trying to create dependence out of a certain type of people, sex or gender, gender or race or religion. Government trying to utilize some form of vulnerability in order to create dependence on an entity, and government benefits off of that greatly.
Right. When people stop thinking about how to survive and what to invest in, I think we'll see a huge surge in both, men and women, a huge surge in just the knowledge of cryptocurrency in general.
Absolutely. And we got a question from Mr. Volgard, who says, Josh, are you planning to visit Iran before it will be destroyed by USA? And the answer is yes, and that's actually going to be our next report. So we're going to get into that right away. Stretch out and get ready, because I always go into these things. I was telling her before we went live, like, I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to do before I get into them.
Which made me feel real at ease. I mean.
Well, and there is that tension when you end up going live in front of a lot of people, but it's WAM, so it's not a lot of people anyway. Oh.
Aww.
72 out of 126,000 people have been actually notified of this live stream, because shadow banning.
Yeah.
You see channels with like 5,000 subscribers have more people watching the live streams at a time. It's ridiculous. It's an obvious example, but anyway. John asks, what do you think about the super chat question? I already answered that, man. Pay attention. Come on. I said, who is the best WAM contributor? I don't know. I'm the guy who runs WAM, so I'm not even a contributor. So you guys have to discuss that among yourselves.
We'll put up a poll on Facebook.
Yeah, come on. Anyway, so let's get into this. I'm going to get the next article up and ready to go. Yeah, these look like the articles we're going to talk about.
Yep, those are the ones.
Talk a boot.
Oh, let's tone down.
Tone down the Canadian?
Tone it down.
She doesn't like Canadians. Should I tell them who else you don't like?
Don't hold that against me. No, can we not?
Okay. Let's go to the next...
I'm going to get a bunch of hate mail, I swear to God.
Okay. Anyway, let's get to the next article here. I just want to make sure I've got the right one. Yeah, okay, use that one. Okay. Again, don't go away after we finish this report live, because we're cutting it out and posting it after. Send super chats, because that's the only way I make money anymore on YouTube, because shadow banning and stuff. And I'll read your comment on air.
And you have to share
72
it with me,
people.
Right? You're going to share it with me? Split it?
Yeah, she wishes.
Just kidding.
Anyway, let's get to this article. All right, as this article out of CNBC News says, and we will elaborate on it, I promise, it says Pentagon will send 1,500 troops along with drones and fighter jets to the Middle East to counter Iran threat. This non-existing threat that does not exist at all, completely falsified BS that goes back over 100 years, and we're going to get into that a lot in this video. But of course, we are joined by Erin Nakamoto, and we are going to do whatever we can to break down this issue that is extensive, to say the least, because it involves over 100 years of militarism by the military-industrial complex in trying to destroy countries around the world, control them, take over them, take their oil, take their sovereignty, quote-unquote, and, of course, be able to install their puppets. And it has to do with banking as well and the monetary system. Let's get into this.
Speaking of which, have you read the... Economic Hitman?
Economic Hitman. John from World Alternative Media here was nice enough when I was driving to across or throughout the United States last year.
Did he read it aloud?
To tell me everything that he read in it. So
it's my favorite. It's my favorite book.
All right. Well, and yeah, like, again, this is an issue that it's far greater than a politician, but who's controlling the politician and where the money is running. But let's get into this article, which says the Pentagon will send additional American troops, drones, and fighter jets to the Middle East amid increasing tensions between the United States and Iran. And I quote, the deployment will include approximately 1,500 U.S. military personnel and consist of a Patriot battalion to defend against missile threats, additional intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft, an engineer element to provide force protection improvement throughout the region, and a fighter aircraft squadron to provide additional deterrence and depth to our aviation response options, Acting Secretary of Defense Patrick Shanahan wrote in a statement Friday. Defense officials at the Pentagon Defense officials at the Pentagon said Friday that they had credible intelligence that Iran and its proxies are planning to attack U.S. forces in the Middle East. Always funny to hear the United States government talking about proxies. Anyway, carrying on, and I quote, we have had multiple credible reports that Iranian proxy groups intend to attack U.S. personnel in the Middle East. While we won't be able to declassify all the available intelligence, we believe that Iran's actions and threats are troubling, escalatory, and dangerous to our U.S. forces and those of our regional partners, said ADM Michael Gilday, director of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Gilday added that a series of recent attacks in the region have been inspired by Iran, including a rocket attack in Iraq, armed drone attacks on Saudi oil pumping stations, and the sabotage of 4 vessels, including the 2 Saudi oil tankers. And I quote, "We believe with a high degree of confidence that the recent attacks stems back to the leadership in Iran at the highest levels," Gilday said of the attacks. I wonder what happens, Erin, when we go to different places, build a wall around their border of troops pointing guns at them, install coups for 100 years in their country.
And then not expect them to fight back?
Yeah, arm the Iraqis, by the way, in the 60s and into the 80s as well, to fight against Iran and overtake Iran, just like they funded, Osama bin Laden to go against the Soviets. And then use that same reason to go into Iraq later on for weapons of mass destruction that they said that they basically gave to them in the first place. They are creating order out of chaos. This is just a perfect example of the military-industrial complex. We're going to go into another article in a moment. But, what do you think about this vast militarism that we're seeing throughout the world? It just never ends.
It never ends. It is so freaking constant. And, what would we do if these people surrounded us in our country and put up hundreds of bases surrounding our country and our military?
Well, people won't think
okay?
of that. People won't think of that because they're in a bubble, right? They're in a bubble where it's like, we cannot imagine someone doing the same thing to us, but we're America, we're big and tough and we're strong and we control the world.
Right.
It's like Team America World Police, basically.
It's so frustrating.
And we can't forget 1952-53, the military coup in Iran, where the United States reinstalled the Shah and caused a vast panic in Iran after they, quote-unquote, democratically, whatever you want to call it, elected their own government and overthrew the Shah. And the Shah wasn't too happy about being overthrown when he was reinstalled, let me add, and there was a lot of people were affected. And we can go all the way through the 60s into 1979, and there was the crisis, and
basically the government creates the problem and then puts it all over mainstream media, pegging it on someone else, and then America comes in and saves us all. It's total something I want to say, but I can't.
On WAM. This is, again, another example of it doesn't matter who the president is, there will always be this militarism. We've been hearing about Iran forever. And has Iran ever attacked the United States? Would they? This is the same argument as Syria. This notion that Assad would bomb the United States. It would be the end of him, and it's already Craterville in Syria. Why would, it's so ridiculous. And that goes to that the fake chemical bombing attack in Syria. Sure, there was an attack. It killed a lot of people, but the idea
it was sad. It was sad.
It was terrible, but the idea that the Syrian government did it is so ridiculous. It's like, I remember Tillerson at the time was saying, we have no plan to go after Assad anymore. And 3 days later, there was this chemical attack where Assad essentially shot himself in the foot and decided to bomb people for no reason and let cameras in there to take pictures of all the dead babies and then post that to American news. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. And then about a year later, again, the United States, almost to the day, says, yeah, we have no plan to go after Assad anymore. Again, 2 or 3 days later, to the date, there's another chemical attack, and Assad, for no reason, bombs his own civilians. It is so ridiculous. If you want to see evidence of governments bombing their own civilians, look no further than the United States. But anyway, that's a whole other situation entirely. But the point is, they've done this with Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria, North Korea. They're doing this with Iran. They've been doing it for a long time. We can't forget their partnerships with places like Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Israel, Britain, Canada, it goes on and on. This is a military-industrial complex. And if you want to talk about big government, what's bigger than gigantic world government of militarism? That's literally as big as you can get for government. What do you think, Erin? Do you think we will be seeing this actually play out? Because we've heard a lot about possibly attacking Iran for years.
look what we did in Libya, you know, like it's just, I do see a war happening with Iran. I mean, how many years has it been that we have been in a constant state of war? You know, wasn't it like 7 years that the United States as a whole has been
since
at
its
peace?
inception. Yeah, and it's
crazy.
ridiculous. Yeah, and at the same time, I also have to mention, like, we've seen this notion of non-interventionism forever among all these presidential candidates. Clinton ran on non-interventionism, Bush ran on non-interventionism, and
Trump
going against the Fed. Obama runs on non-interventionism, drops more bombs than any other president, and then Trump runs on non-interventionism, and he's trying to break Obama's record of dropping the most bombs. And what does this tell us?
I think he's already beaten it, right? He's beaten that record
at this point in his presidency. Absolutely,
it's so crazy.
And what does this tell us about voters overall? Well, first of all, that they keep perpetuating this nonsense Pepsi and Coke attitude, but at the same time,
and yet voters, they call for change,
yeah,
right? Like,
and
I want
don't
change,
want
but
interventionism.
Exactly. And
they don't want war.
It's and people are very, very quick to jump to causes that they care about, but they totally ignore the fact that we kill so many people overseas, so many people for no reason. I mean, they aren't attacking us.
Hundreds of millions of people have died, and we're supposed to be fighting terrorism. Who are the terrorists when you kill hundreds of millions of people, the vast, vast, vast majority of them being innocent civilians? Collateral damage to kill a few thousand so-called terrorists that you armed and funded in the first place.
Yep, and you won't find the numbers anywhere.
Yeah.
And we'll never know for sure how many people the United States have actually murdered.
Because they go to a lot of countries that aren't completely controlled by government and bomb them because, so all these people aren't on record, they don't have licenses, and they're not in some system.
That and the mainstream media just constantly lies to us.
Yeah. Amber Lyon from CNN years ago came out and exposed CNN. She was on CNN, she was one of their top reporters, and she exposed how the U.S. government and CNN was working with the Bahrain government to cover up a massacre over there. I mean, it's one thing after another. And we have to mention also that Iraq has even mentioned in recent days that they don't want to comply with this militarism with Iran. They want nothing to do with it because Iraq, of course, is becoming very Kurdish. I'm planning to go there as well. The northern part of Iraq, they don't want any more conflict in the region. They're finally starting to portion off areas of Iraq where there isn't militarism. They're not getting bombed. There's no terrorism, etc. It's called Iraqi Kurdistan, and places like Erbil, which are completely peaceful. And I've seen guys in recent days actually hitchhiking through Iraq, through that part of Iraq, which is what made me want to go. I never thought I'd say that. But
he's trying to get us to go with him.
Come on, come to Iraq with me. I'm sure your parents would love that. Yeah, I mean,
I'm sending her to you.
Yeah. But I'm going to get into this other article quickly because I think it draws us nearer to the real conclusion, the real cui bono kind of situation here. As this article out of the National Interest says, the Pentagon is using the same old Vietnam playbook for dealing with Iran. And I would actually add Iraq as well. But anyway, as the article goes into, sometimes a moment is so ironic that it makes you stop for a minute to wonder who is running this universe. A classic example from the annals of U.S. military history. The first atomic bomb dropped on Japan was named Little Boy, and B-29 that carried it was named for the pilot's mother. A far less historic but equally strange event took place on Thursday when Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan acknowledged that the Pentagon is considering a request from the head of U.S. Central Command, Marine General Kenneth McKenzie Jr., to deploy more U.S. troops to the Middle East in response to purported threats from Iran, because, that's totally happening. I'm sure Iran could totally hit mainland Iran. Maybe they might hit the troops that are pointing guns at them literally there when they're shooting it. Anyway, well...
Yeah, it's not like they don't have already five bases surrounding.
Yeah, a million. And I quote, "What we're looking at is, are there things we can do to enhance force protection in the Middle East?" Shanahan told reporters at the Pentagon. It may involve sending additional troops, and some have even said that they wanted to see as many as 120,000 troops. These people are scumbags. Imagine how many children will die if 120,000 troops go there. I mean, a vast portion of these populations are under the age of 16. And we've seen that in Iraq. We saw that in Libya. It's so sickening. And as it says, that may not sound ironic at all until you realize that Shanahan was about to have a meeting with an official from Vietnam, home of the conflict that proved big things have small beginnings. The ghost of the Vietnam War has hovered above Washington, D.C. since May 5th, when White House National Security Advisor Ambassador John Bolton first announced an aircraft carrier strike group and bombers were headed to the Middle East, and I quote, to send a clear and unmistakable message to the Iranian regime that any attacks on the United States interests or on those of our allies will be
Saudi
met
Arabia.
with unrelenting force. Yeah, exactly. In response, Marine veteran Representative Seth Moulton, a Democrat from Massachusetts, recently told Task and Purpose he was concerned about a Gulf of Tonkin-like incident. Well, there you go.
Which was proven to be
a false flag.
Like
incident between U.S. and Iranian forces that could lead to outright war. And while your humble Pentagon correspondent was considering asking Shanahan if he, too, was concerned about a sequel to the Gulf of Tonkin, until he noticed the flag of the unified communist Vietnam fluttering in the breeze, subtext had clearly become text, like when Doogie Howser wore an SS uniform at the end of Starship Troopers. That was a strange little point in this article, but okay then. Anyway, as it continues, for all those beloved leaders who were born after the 1980s and did not have the benefit of learning about Vietnam from popular culture, such as the short-lived cartoon show Rambo, The Force of Freedom, what is with these references? Let me sum up why this discussion is relevant to current events in Iran. The Vietnam War was a result of a series of strategic failures that the United States repeated in Iraq and Afghanistan, and looks bound to repeat with regards to Iran. While it's not an exact parallel, the United States military buildup in Vietnam began in earnest following two reported attacks, although one was probably imagined, against U.S. warships in the Gulf of Tonkin in August 1964. That year, there were roughly 20,000 U.S. troops in South Vietnam. 4 years later, more than 500,000 GIs were in the country. And let me just add that not only was the toll on the soldiers pretty bad, I mean, a whole bunch of people with PTSD, vast suicide rates skyrocketing, and they were not welcomed back very happily by people. At the same time, I have to mention, Gulf of Tonkin isn't the only example of the false flag leading into Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh, who basically led the revolution for the communist nationalists in Vietnam, was armed and funded by FDR all those years earlier in the 1930s into the 40s. And of course, it was a French colony. It was overrun by French, and it just started with a few attacks. A few guys died. A few people were killed while Ho Chi Minh was in Washington, and it led to this vast unrolling of, making out Vietnam to be the bad guys right after Ho Chi Minh got all these arms and was basically praised as the guy who they want to be in charge in Vietnam and take over the north of Vietnam. And it became a horrible, horrible thing. So many people died. People were burned to death. People were given chemical bombs. You can't forget Agent Orange and Monsanto. And this just led to this massive war. And we could say the same thing for Pearl Harbor. They allowed it to happen just so that they had reason to go into Japan. And these things keep happening. 9/11, Iraq, the financial crisis, Libya, and all these false flags in the Arab Spring, which was pushed by the United Nations and outside Western forces. What do you think, Erin? I mean,
war is so unspeakable that it should. I've said everything I can on the matter. Well, it really is disgusting, and we need to end the cycle somehow.
People look at it from outside, from far away, with rose-colored lenses, and look at it as like this outside issue where some people are going somewhere to save us from something, and meanwhile they don't see what's actually happening on the ground. And if you see all the children getting blown up, how could you possibly support it? It's like I mentioned earlier with Syria. Like, oh, there's a chemical attack, which, by the way, the United States is involved in more chemical attacks than I think any other country in history. Yeah. But then they're like, in order to stop these chemical attacks, we need to kill 500 times the amount of people that died in this attack by dropping bombs on children to stop Syria from attacking their own people.
I don't think there's any topic that gets me more fired up than this. Because at what point are we going to say, stop going to war for no reason? I mean, stop killing children across the world. Stop, just get out and let people fight their own battles. I mean, I understand war is it's gonna happen, you know. But for us to be involved in every conflict, it's ridiculous. Like, come home.
Billions, trillions of dollars stolen from taxpayers to go blow up children and pay off the interest on the debt, which all plays together because the monetary system is heavily a major issue for a lot of these wars. It both benefit from each other. The Federal Reserve and the bombing of countries, they both benefit from each other. The military-industrial complex needs an economic crisis. The economic crisis needs a war to prevail. We saw that after World War II and the massive financial crisis, and it was followed by World War II. And then we also saw the Korean War followed an economic crisis. The Vietnam War followed an economic crisis. I mean, we could go into the Gulf War. It just continues. Iraq War followed the 2001 crisis. Libya and Yemen followed the 2008 crisis, and we're heading into another economic crisis. So I guess we need another war. And it's just a perpetual nature of massacring millions of innocent people for peace.
Speaking of that, did you see I think it was a tweet that the U.S. Army posted on Memorial Day weekend? Yeah. And it just got massive exposure of people saying, well, my uncle's dead because he got PTSD and put a gun in his mouth. And
wasn't it like, this Memorial Day, tell us why you're proud that he served?
Yeah,
and
exactly. And just almost every single comment was just the after effects of war with PTSD and suicides and just massive drinking and just every bad thing that can come from war basically exposed in a tweet. And and what was their response? I mean, there were hundreds of negative comments, and how did the army respond?
Yeah, exactly. And it's exactly that too, because you actually look at, especially with a voting record, I remember when Ron Paul was running, he had more support from veterans than all of the presidential candidates in the GOP and Obama combined in 2012. So what does that tell you about where a lot of their hearts are? I mean, every veteran I meet is either damaged, disgusted, or robotic. And the robotic ones are the ones that are like, yeah, we must go back, we must continue these wars. They're the ones that have had all emotions knocked out of them by their training.
That's what they do. They totally make them robots.
And it's a defense mechanism too, because a lot of them don't want to face the reality of what they saw and what they did in a lot of cases. And I mean, it's absolutely horrible. And again, as long as we perpetuate this issue, we will see millions die. It'll go on forever. It's just like democracy.
It comes down to, again, survival. I mean, that's why a lot of people join the military, is so they can get a paycheck and survive. Yeah. So once everyone should just buy Bitcoin.
Yeah. But
don't join the military.
It's problem, reaction, solution, repeat for eternity. The Hegelian dialectic. You blow up people's parents and children, and then they get angry, and then you take up arms that you probably arm them with and fund them with.
Yeah.
Just like, the immigration issue, they arm and fund the Mexican cartels and the Colombian cartels, etc., run guns to them, and have a war on drugs and create a problem that leads to conflict and violence, and not the kind of black market I like. And then at the same time as that, you have that with the military-industrial complex. You bomb these people, their families take up arms, you arm and fund them, you create a problem, you have more of a reason to go in, so you go in, bomb more people, arm more people, bomb more people, arm more people,
it's
spread
a perpetual
fear,
cycle.
And it goes on forever, and it pumps up these massive military entities, contractors, etc., and it'll just never end as long as we perpetuate it. So think for yourself, rule yourself, decentralize, break free from this paradigm, don't obey, and stop falling for it. And I do see optimism, because I see more people than ever questioning these narratives, questioning the false flags, and so many of them fall through. How much do you see today about the chemical attacks in Syria? Because people saw through it. It was obvious that, obviously Assad didn't do that. Yeah, it was ridiculous. So anyway.
So there's hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
There's always light as long as you look for the light. So anyway.
That was very nice.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Anyway, we'll be back at you with much more. This is Josh Sigurdson with Erin Nakamoto signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. You didn't do?
Oh, well.
All right. Well, we're still here, guys, by the way, again. So we do have a super chat from a few people. So we got Tim Pashot sent, Erin is my favorite contributor because she introduced us in Vegas. All right, $9.99 for
Yeah.
that super chat. Thank you very much. It's better than John's Canadian dollars. It's worth more. Anyway, and then thank you very much, by the way. DSTN Lockwood 77 sent $2. Any updates on the reshot structure? Yeah, and thank you very much. I am working on that as fast as I can. It's 30 hours of footage, so it's been a little bit difficult to get it all together, and it's going to take me a while.
But to be fair, guys, he is working on it, I swear. He comes over and just starts editing, and I see it. So.
Yeah. Well, and that, and I have to get videos up every day, or else it's like one thing or another, because it's like if I don't post videos every day, I lose all my subscribers.
And your income.
And my income, I can't do anything. I starve. And then on top of that, if I just if I don't edit all the time and I'm just working on my videos every day, then people get angry. It is what it is. There's I'll do my best though. I'm gonna do whatever I can to get it to people by the end of June, early July. I know that sounds like a long time. I know that means 2 or 3 months from when I actually shot it. But again, it's 30 hours and I have to edit and post videos every day at the same time.
Right, and it's not just a video, it's a documentary.
And it's a documentary. So it'll probably end up being around an hour and a half. I'll see if I can cut it down shorter. Anyway, we got some more comments here. Jethro Harmon, like I said, we are all the light. Thank you. Vince Edwards, choose honor, not money. Yeah, well, I don't know what the context of that message is, but I did this for free for many years, but I cannot post videos every day without money. Like, I've had some people in recent days, like, you shouldn't have as many advertisements on videos, and you should... what was it? End all ads on videos. Don't ask for donations and post more. And I'm like, that's not how this works. I mean, I kind of have to make money in order to do this 18 hours a day.
But I feel like just people who don't make videos, they don't quite understand it.
Some people, yeah. I mean, I think most of our viewers understand it, but then you just get this subset of people who just troll me, and I'm not even sure if they even watch me. They're just like trying to troll me.
To be fun, it's very, very fun to troll Josh.
Yeah, she does it all the time. Anyway. Let's see. We got another super chat. Thank you very much from DSTN Lockwood 77, who says, "How much did the reshot trip cost?" It cost, let's see, probably about $4,500, because I just kept ending up with more and more costs constantly along the trip, and I had to buy stuff for the trip that made me safer, only to get there and find out that the people in Mauritania are very nice. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of hard work that went into it, and that involved spending money on hotels and buses and drivers. And by the way, they mark up the price a lot when you are out in Mauritania if you're white, because they're like, oh, there's a sucker walking around in our country. Oh yeah, there's a lot of things that are held for review as spam. Yeah, Vince Edwards said, check out my channel. Will do. But yeah, it was flagged as spam. Oh. And then Kingsley says he has a strand of hair out of place. Oh, no. Anyway.
He took like 45 minutes to do his hair. Honestly, we went on vacation with him, and that's all he did, is just focus on his hair.
More like 5 minutes, but I have a double crown, so it sticks straight up if I don't comb it. Like, seriously. No one would take me seriously if I didn't comb my hair. Anyway, the Economic Truth, John Snyson says, you need to work for free, Josh. It's time to live in a hut in the Red Rock Canyon doing videos. Yeah, that would go over so well. 180 billion degrees Fahrenheit every day. That would be great. But anyway, yeah, so let's...
I believe Erin.
Red Crypto says, haha, I believe Erin.
It's true. I would never lie.
There's a bit of that. There's a bit... I do... Look, I mean, don't look at them, but look at them if you want. My first WAM videos are like... no one could possibly take me seriously. Don't you dare. No one could possibly take me seriously, because I would just... People would be like, don't like conform to the man. Don't comb your hair. Don't wear... So I just like wear crappy clothes and like not comb my hair, and I would look like crap. So like people didn't take me seriously.
Can I please?
No. No, you can put that phone away.
All right, if you want pictures of Josh with long hair.
Yeah. Anyway, so, and I wasn't talking about that, but thank you for bringing that up. Anyway, we got more comments coming in. Let's see. We've got... I'm going to scroll up a bit here. Rika the Hopeful Voluntarist. Ignore unsolicited advice. Wait, was that unsolicited advice? I guess I have to ignore that too. I try not to ignore Rika, the hopeful voluntarist, though, because she literally is on every single one of my videos. I'm missing one of the ladies that watches me often, named Darth Shady, who is almost on every cast, so there's a shout out to her. Anyway, Charles D, keep up the great work, Josh. Thank you very much. If you're still tuned in,
another super
and
chat.
We got a new super chat. Thank you again. DSTN Lockwood 77 says, could you send me some info to help me plan a trip to the structure? Absolutely, because I was joking around with the people I went there with about how I could become a Mauritania travel guide after my experience, because everything went wrong on my trip, which you'll be seeing in the documentary, because the documentary is partially talking about the reshot structure and what I found there and wandering around there, which, by the way, I'm going back to explore more. But on top of that, half of it is my journey there and all these things that went wrong. Hitchhiking across Western Sahara and Mauritania, not recommended. People are really good to me, did everything they could to help me out, but it was a nightmare and a half. And we lost our morale a lot on that trip. I went with my friend Anna Pashenta and Ezzy the Free on Instagram. And it was like, some of it I just wanted to get on a plane and go home so badly. And I was in no man's land in the middle of nowhere surrounded by landmines, hitchhiking. And I'm like, I guess I can't. I'm stuck here. I have to do this now. And when I tell my viewers I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So that's why I told you all that I'm going to Iraq and Iran, because now I can't back out. Even if they start bombing the places, I'm still going to end up there somehow. Hopefully I don't become collateral damage, but I think there's more fear than what's reality. Big Boy
there
Bitcoin.
always is.
Big Boy Bitcoin. Have you heard of D Live? I absolutely have, and I hope it does well. My one issue with D Live, I like what they become now, was largely what was happening before when they changed blockchains and didn't really tell anybody, and a whole bunch of videos, everyone's videos got taken down.
I remember when it came out and it just was super, super buggy.
Yeah.
I haven't been on since, but
well, that's the main issue with a lot of these platforms, these alternatives on the blockchain, is a lot of them are really buggy, and that's one thing we need to get past, because I think that goes for basically all of them, are slower. I mean, they're slower. We need to find a way to properly share bandwidth so that we can have a thing like YouTube that can run fast as long as you have decent enough internet.
What's the other one? Not
DTube?
Not DTube, not BitChute, but
BitTube?
The one I got you on, BitTube.
You didn't get me on BitTube.
I totally did.
I was the one that was trying to sell tube coins to you, tube tokens.
Oh, was that you?
Yeah.
All I remember is I told you about it, and then that same night you came here. You were here from Canada, finding a place here, and you were uploading everything onto BitTube. It took forever.
Yeah, I know. It took a while. I think you're thinking of Ken Bozak, who you told about BitTube, because he likes BitTube a lot.
Possibly. I don't know.
Anyway, let's see. We got another super chat from Big Boy Bitcoin. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Again, super chats keep us alive. I literally cannot do this. Lately, I've been looking at my $20 I've been making a day on YouTube and going, oh, great, I have to pay rent somehow. It's been a bit difficult in recent days, especially since I've been gone in Mauritania. They came down with the shadow banning way worse than they ever had before, and that's on top of back in February I was saying I don't know how I could do this anymore, because they started shadow banning me even more so then, and then suddenly in the last month it's been 10 times worse than that. So it's just, they're incrementally doing this, but they're not doing it at a slow enough pace so that it normalizes it, because everyone can see it. All these YouTube channels are quitting, all these people are stopping with producing content because they can't anymore. You can't.
What was it?
Do this every day.
2 days ago, you did a live video, and then I looked at it an hour after you did it, and it said that it was a month old. Yeah,
it said it came out a month ago, and then it said for 8 hours that it had 0 views on it for most people.
And you couldn't comment on it.
Yeah, couldn't comment on it. It said that comments were disabled on the video for some reason. It's ridiculous.
Reply with one if Josh should use the super chat money to buy Erin dinner tonight.
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen. I need to buy myself dinner first.
I've bought you dinner so many times. I've bought you dinner yes.
Well, you made me dinner.
That's true.
Vegan stuff. So celery sticks and carrots.
Oh, God. It wasn't celery sticks and carrots. He's exaggerating.
You didn't give like a limit on how many ones because like there's 3 ones. Ooh, that means something apparently. Anyway,
UBI is an insane idea.
Well, okay, universal basic income is seriously another example of how we perpetuate the same paradigm of centralization is going to solve the problems of centralization. And it's just not the way things work. And actually, that brings me to the fact that we still haven't done one of our videos here. I'm not sure if we will. I'm on the fence whether I want to do another report in this video. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Good? Okay. Let's try it out. All right. Again, for those of you that are just tuning in, don't go anywhere after we do these videos because I'm going to do it live and then cut it and then post it as a separate video afterwards. So we'll still be here to take your comments. If you want to send any super chats or anything, I really appreciate it. We also take tips in Bitcoin because why wouldn't we? That would be crazy not to. So this is our Bitcoin address. If anyone is interested, I'm sure you're not, so I'll just click out of that.
Oh, anyway, that's unfair.
Yeah, well.
Everyone should be using Bitcoin.
I don't get a lot of Bitcoin donations, actually. There's a period of time where I got a few, but it's on and off. It's sporadic. But, I understand we're entering into a financial crisis. It's a bear market in crypto still, even though we haven't seen quite a escalation in the price lately. So I understand where people are coming from. A lot of people are less likely to throw a bunch of money at someone else. So I understand. But again, we can't do it without you. Independent media is depending on you guys to keep us alive because we can't depend on YouTube and we can't even depend on promotion if we're being shadow banned and not allowed to be seen. Anyway, let's do this. Next report. Stay tuned after the report and we'll be right back with you. Anyway.
You stumbled over your words.
All right. As this article out of Colo 8 News says, bill increasing Nevada minimum wage clears assembly. More news like this. It's a huge problem. We've gone into it a lot of times. Of course, we're joined by Erin Nakamoto here at World Alternative Media. And of course, we've done a lot of reporting on the minimum wage issues before, and it's just basic economics. It's not about opinion, guys. It's just basic economics. If you raise the minimum wage, as we've seen in places like Seattle, people move from that place. Businesses move to that place to another place because there's more incentive to have a business in a place where they don't have to pay people sometimes twice as much as they're already paying them. It only helps businesses like McDonald's get a leg up. We'll get into that in a moment. But anyway, as this article goes into, Bill AB 456 to raise Nevada's minimum wage has passed the assembly in a party line vote. The measure approved Tuesday by Democrats seeks to raise the minimum wage to $12 an hour for workers not offered health insurance and an $11 an hour for employees who are. And let's remember that the current minimum wage is somewhere around $2.25 in Nevada. So that isn't very sustainable to just bounce it up almost double from what it is. But as it continues, it says the measure now moves to the state Senate for consideration. And the state Senate is very much on the left in Nevada, surprisingly, mostly because of all the Californians moving here, I think. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Everywhere you look, it's California license plates here in Nevada.
Yeah.
But anyway, carrying on.
We're a total blue state now. Whereas, just last election cycle, we were a red state.
Oh, and the majority of women, don't forget that, in the Senate, in the state Senate. So there's that. Congratulations, you win.
Well, you know my opinion on that.
Assembly Speaker Jason Frierson says a minimum wage would positively impact hundreds of thousands of state residents. The bill is a revived effort after former Republican Governor Brian Sandoval vetoed a 2017 bill to raise the minimum wage. The Assembly Democratic Caucus says a joint resolution separate of the bill aims to increase the minimum wage and constitutionally remove the two-tiered minimum wage structure. That measure also passed the Assembly on Tuesday. So let's talk about this a little bit. Here is the basic economic principles involved in this. So if there's a lot of businesses like McDonald's, like Walmart, like a lot of these big corporations that completely approve of the idea in a lot of places, and there's a reason for that. Because these things push small businesses out of the market and prop up major corporations. Again, regulations, taxes, and things like the minimum wage hike just help these massive corporations. I mean, they won't get hurt by it. They'll just hire robots to do all the stuff for the employees. They're slave labor without slaves. Meanwhile, small businesses have to go out of business because they cannot afford to pay the taxes, deal with all the red tape regulations, and on top of that, pay everyone, in some cases, twice as much. It's ridiculous.
Socialists will blame it on capitalism, right? And
I know.
That's why they'll always do that. They'll always blame it on capitalism, and from there...
it's a problem reaction solution.
It is.
It's like, let's create problems, and then people will beg government to solve those problems.
But it's just corporatism, honestly.
Yeah, it's corporatism. It's corporate fascism. It's control of corporations by government. And again, one of the biggest issues that plays into this minimum wage argument is actually inflation. So when we get down to the brass details of this, it's a fact that as long as we print currency out of thin air and get people to pay off the interest on the debt and just vast amounts of printing, then what happens? You end up with the price of living inflating. You just keep adding zeros, one zero after another to products. That's why bread has gone from 5 cents to like 10. Like in Las Vegas here, I go to Whole Foods and it's like $9 or $10. It's ridiculous getting a loaf of bread.
Well, you are shopping at Whole Foods.
Yeah.
But in general, things are going up, and and that drives up the homeless population as well. People can't afford to live in their homes.
Already, almost about somewhere around 2% of the population in Las Vegas is homeless. Now, a lot of that plays into a lot of people coming here and losing all their money and then sleeping on the streets. But, and a lot of people from California that are, because I mean, you'd rather sleep on a street in Las Vegas than in LA or San Francisco, to be fair, but I would prefer not to sleep on the street anywhere. And again, this is an issue of government centralizing things, and people think that if the amount of money that everyone makes goes up, that all the prices are going to stay the same. No, they're not. They're not going to stay stable. The prices are going to go up with the price of living, because guess what? The more you have to pay your employees, the more you have to raise the price of the products that your employees are producing. So in order to keep up with the cost, or else you go out of business. It's just basic economics. Unless you're a McDonald's or a Walmart, which can employ robots to do everything for you, as you've seen with self-checkout. And I'm actually in favor of automation, because it statistically creates more jobs over time than it takes. As we've seen going back to the 90s, especially, about 50% of jobs today could not have been known to exist in the 1990s. But with that said, do we want to give these major corporations a monopoly on that and create an artificial move towards this automation where only the Walmarts of the world and the Whole Foods and the McDonald's and Burger Kings have that role? But I mean, you've seen a lot of poverty in the city, Erin. You've lived here longer than I have. What do you think about how this is going to affect the average person who goes to the store and buys a product, goes to a grocery store?
I mean, like I mentioned, it's just going to drive up the price of everything else. And honestly, like I can see it doubling the homeless population.
I see this the same thing that's happening in Canada happening here, because we've seen things like, on top of the minimum wage hikes in Canada, you'll see the carbon tax, which is a tax on everything, exporting, importing, it's all taxed. And therefore, it becomes impossible to afford anything. And then bring in UBI and stuff like that. And what happens next? Well, you end up increasing the price of living further, because everything's going to go up with the amount that you're just pouring out to people. And when the government is stealing from everyone to pay everyone, like I've seen this one guy, what's his name, Yang or something? He's running for president.
Yang
of course,
Gang.
And he's talking about he wants to give everyone in the United States this paycheck every month. I'm like, where do you think this is coming from? It's so ridiculous. Like, where do these people think this is coming from? But of course, it's free stuff. It's to be nice to people. No, it's to make you be more and more controlled. It's to make you more and more dependent. And stupid and weak and dumb. I mean, it's all about making you more controllable, and it's a normalization, incremental frog boil to complete collectivism and control of the masses. And it comes under the guise of free things. It's what we saw in India when the Indian government gave everyone free bank accounts in 2014, 2015. And then what happened next? Well, then they're trying to install their cashless society, demonetize all currency, push everyone into the system with facial recognition and everything, and rival China for the next world reserve cashless currency. It's all meant to control you. The government doesn't do anything it doesn't personally benefit from and that you don't personally suffer from long term. Government can't give you freedom. They can only take it away. And again, we are going to see this everywhere. Californians are moving in mass to Las Vegas. I mean, like a few years ago compared to now, how many more Californians are you seeing driving around here?
Plus, now we have the Raiders coming to town, which is just going to drive even more Californians in. And bringing their liberal ideas and policies and
destroyed their state. Why don't they just come over here and bring their ideas that destroy their state with them? Because
we already have a socialist governor.
Sisolak.
Like he's been trying to push gun legislation, like anti-gun legislation, and sheriffs have actually written back to him and said, we will not enforce this.
Yeah, because they'll get shot.
Yeah, because look at the red flag laws that are popping up all over the country.
Yeah,
it's really scary. It's terrifying what socialists are trying to push on us, and we have to make sure that we protect our rights.
It's that problem, reaction, solution, repeat that we're seeing from government, and they're shooting themselves in the foot because they're moving too fast, and they're going to get caught red-handed trying to impose all these laws by people who it's not like it happened over 40 years. I mean, we have seen a lot of normalization of control over 40 years, but to see all these things happen at the same time, it's not going to work. And I mean, these Californians that are moving from states where in LA, it's like $4 million to have a small house. In San Francisco, people who work 2 jobs are living out of their vehicle, and there's feces all over the street and homeless people everywhere. And then they come to Las Vegas, where of course there's lots of homeless, but obviously like property prices are way down here, incredibly cheap compared to most of the country, actually, for a big city.
And it is getting bad. Like it's getting bad.
Yeah, it's growing again because it was just about $200,000 in 2007 when the bubble burst, jumped down to below 100, and now it's above 200,000 on average again. But compared to the rest of the country, the big cities, Seattle, you look at New York, New Jersey, you look at LA, San Diego, San Francisco, it's a big difference. And I think a lot of Californians are like, oh, we centralized the hell out of our economy and destroyed everything. Let's go to Nevada because it's not too bad yet.
And do it all again.
Do it all again.
Yep.
People never learn, and it's like the same thing with fiat currency. Well, it's only been 1,000 years that that's been happening. Or even worse, democracy. It's only been like thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Ancient Greece.
We just didn't do it right.
Yeah, maybe this time. Change we can believe in. Maybe if everyone's always asking for change in government, maybe the issue isn't the person, the figurehead in government, but the government itself. And that's a question that we all should be asking, which is why we have AnarchoVegas here. And that is July 19th to 21st, the first 2 days. It's Candles in the Dark, and of course with Larkin Rose and the Free Ross benefit that we're having with Lynn Albrecht. But also the 21st will be the conference itself with a lot of great speakers, including Larkin Rose. Can you talk a little bit about AnarchoVegas?
Sure can. So like Josh had mentioned, we're hosting a Free Ross fundraiser on Saturday the 20th. And the ticket proceeds will go to the Free Ross campaign. So we are excited about that. Sunday, we are holding our conference where we have speakers like G. Edward Griffin, Josh himself, Ford Fisher, Luke Radowski, Dan Dix, Jeff Berwick, Amanda Rockwitz, Larkin Rose, among several others. We're going to be talking economics. We're going to be talking politics. We're going to be talking homeschooling. So just a very wide variety of topics that really make a difference. And our whole goal of this is to empower the individual and have them just be a little less dependent on the state and just a little more empowered in themselves and what they can do and what they can provide for the free market.
This is all about us getting together as individuals and be responsible. Look, I'm against collectivism, not organization, and a lot of people think that if you are a voluntarist or an anarchist,
you can't organize.
And that is a problem with a lot of anarchists, to be fair, but I mean, it's mostly because they don't like being told what to do, and I understand
why.
But
if people are voluntarily offering to come together and listen to each other, to empower each other and offer each other insight, there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
and I
course.
feel like a lot of anarchists are not against that.
Exactly.
So I hate when people say that. We'll also have the BYOV workshop on Monday the 22nd. So for those of you who are interested in learning how to protect your cryptocurrency after you've bought it off of Coinbase or other exchanges, the best way to secure your asset, Juan Galt and Anastasia are going to be going to a location here in Vegas to teach you all about how to do that and how to secure your digital assets.
Does Anastasia not want her last name said?
I don't know how to say it.
Sergeyevna. Yes, that's Russian. So anyway, it's going to be great. Promo code WAM, WAM, will save you 10% on your tickets. And we're going to, I think, be doing a giveaway soon regarding AnarchoVegas. But until then, you could save 10% on your tickets to AnarchoVegas. Don't wait. The ticket prices will eventually go up.
Yep. Actually, they're going to go up on the 21st of June.
Good. I thought you were going to say on May. It was 29th? Okay.
No.
Okay, good.
June 21st is when the ticket price does go up, both GA and VIP. So I think our ticket price is fair.
And we can talk about basic economics, like getting government in to force businesses to raise the minimum wage is going to hurt the businesses, the employees, the poor the most. And it always ends this way. Again, it's going to perpetuate something, and then people are going to be poor, and then they're going to beg government for more help because debt, servitude, and poverty are perfect for government and banks to gain control over the populace. So we're going to be talking about that among many other things. I'm going to be on a media panel with a lot of great people, and I'm looking forward to it. And honestly, I mean, it comes down to being free, responsible human beings. A lot of it is live by your own actions. Like, don't just say it, live by it. Be that change you wish to see. Be the person that actually steps out of line and does what you want in your life without other people restricting you. And if they try to, disobey the authorities, that organized crime rackets we call government, that come after us and try to destroy our free will for the purpose of controlling the masses and leading us to the slaughter.
Stand by your morals.
Exactly. That are going to say stand by your... Anyway.
I've been singing that a lot over the last couple of days. So.
Please don't. Anyway, so thanks for joining us, everyone. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and Erin Nakamoto signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. All right. Okay. Again, don't go anywhere. We are here, and let's see. We've got quite a few more comments. A lot of stuff about us being serfs in our own kingdom. Vince Edwards says most people are clueless about their rights. And oh my God, there's so many comments.
I know. I can't believe it. Jesus.
Clueless about their rights and clueless about how this government works, or any government itself. It doesn't matter what government. I cannot read these comments.
They're coming. I know.
Oh, and they just suddenly stopped. The second we said something, they're like, okay. So 46 people out of 126,000 people are watching. Thank you for those
Thank
of
you
you
for
that
tuning in.
Saw that we're online. Vince Edwards, this government, no, all governments, is unique. No government is unique. You have different forms of collectivism, different forms of Pepsi and Coke. Sometimes you have RC Cola. It doesn't change the fact that it's still the same thing. It's still the same ingredients. Both are bad for you. Some are different colors. I mean, when it comes down to it, that is the reality. We, the people, are the government, but we as individuals cannot stand up against other people, Vince. We cannot use our ideas by the hand of force. So if you have a good idea, it does not deserve, no matter how good you think your idea is, the use of force against other free human beings. People are born free. The only thing that can take that away is the government is taking away our freedoms. They cannot give it to us. So anyway, I would read more comments, but Erin is scrolling way up here on me.
I just want to see what you guys are writing.
It's mostly all. Vince Edwards by the look of it. Silver Slave 333 says slave on. All right. But anyway, so let me just scroll down there, Erin.
Sorry, and I'm getting so close to the screen because I don't have my glasses on, so like I can't see anything.
She's blind.
I'm so
Walks
blind.
into walls and
Cars.
sneezes a lot. Paul G, you still on live recording? Josh, man. Yeah, I know. That's why I'm talking to the audience. But I thank you for warning me in case I didn't know, because that could be bad. Silver Slave 333, currency always fails. Crypto is going to fail. That's just a blanket statement with no actual fundamental facts behind it. And economically, when you have a new idea that is in its adoption phase, pre-adoption phase, and it's innovating on a product, it's innovating as a product and furthering our abilities to do things more efficiently, then no, I don't think we could just blanketly say all cryptos are going to fail. Some will, but
some definitely.
I mean,
will.
actually, most will, but there's a great amount. I'd say probably a good 50, 60 of them that aren't going to fail anytime soon.
Crypto, which is backed by nothing.
What is anything backed by? What's gold backed by? And if you say physicality, that means nothing. Physicality is a use case for gold. It isn't what it's backed by. You're confusing an IOU note by the government for something like crypto, which is an entity, an idea, an innovation, something that's efficient, something that can be used, that's both scarce, that's in demand, and has use case. And physicality is part of gold's use case. Scarcity is part of gold's use case. Demand is part of gold's use case. And again, with crypto, scarcity, application, use, and demand, for some of them, many of them not so much. Like Ripple, no, there isn't scarcity in Ripple. And the use case, there is temporary use case basically because of the banks and stuff using it,
and the banks communicating with each other. There's definitely a use case for Ripple, but I wouldn't recommend it. We're trying to get crypto is about eliminating those third-party companies, and Ripple just kind of goes beyond that.
And Silver Slaves 333 says, haha, Josh, every currency has failed, so choose money equals silver. Money is what people decide is money. Even fiat is money if people decide it's money. While you exchange it, it's money. But it's going to revert to zero because it's fiat, because it's by force, because it's the use of force. Legal tender laws that have always failed because they are printing it out of nowhere, and it doesn't have any efficiency. It doesn't have any use case. It only has use case as long as there's faith in it, and the faith is running out quick. And if, for example, if you want to use certain other currencies in the United States, you can have the IRS come after you for money laundering. You can have the IRS come after you for the capital gains taxes because they only recognize that one currency. And again, they print vast amounts. They never end. There's fractional reserve lending, quantitative easing, etc. So you cannot compare a fiat by force, by use of legal tender laws by the government and central banks like the Federal Reserve to something like Bitcoin. You cannot say cryptocurrency altogether. Silver Slave 333, crypto is a currency equals fail. No, currency and money aren't necessarily always the same thing, but money and currency can be the same thing. You can use something as a currency and as a money at the same time, but that doesn't mean that all currencies are good, and that doesn't mean all currencies equal money long term. But again, money is subjective, so therefore value comes from subjectivity and your idea of money. If you put value on something, it is valuable. If I put money on the internet, which by the way is out of nowhere, which is nothing, it's air, it's frequency, that doesn't mean the internet doesn't have value. It's one of the most valuable things in the entire world right now, more valuable than gold. When the grid goes down, which is the argument by a lot of people, then yes, gold and silver will be reigning as king. But I mean, again, it's more efficient in a dollar crash to go to people and trade crypto than to be shaving off shreds of gold and weighing it on a scale when you're going to the store. Now, there's things like Anthem Gold and stuff like that Anthem Blanchard's doing where you can trade gold on the blockchain or load with silver, etc. But again, money is subjective, value is subjective, nothing is intrinsic. Intrinsic is the idea of magic. It's magic. It's a floating number above something. That is not a real thing. Intrinsic is not a thing. The only thing intrinsic is your life until it's gone, until you're dead. Then you know what's intrinsic? Your death. I mean, that is basically all that is intrinsic in life. Even certain kinds of food, the value is subjective. For example, like you look at something like lentils. Now, lentils are in vast quantities. They're cheap because there's no scarcity. Yes, there's a demand for it, but there's no deficit versus the demand. So therefore, they're cheap. You can find them easily. And then there's octopus, which is incredibly expensive in a lot of cases because it's more scarce to find at a food store, or something like, let's say sushi. Sushi is often more expensive because it's in lower quantity. It's more gourmet, more work is put into making it. And for that reason, its value is higher. People put its value higher. And businesses that sell it as a product put its value higher. But then the lentils are more vast. They're not as scarce, so that they are worth a lot less for that reason. That's subjectivity of value. Some people like peanut butter. Some people are allergic to peanut butter.
You're making me so hungry.
Sorry. Yeah, anyway, we will go and eat soon. But I'm not buying Erin dinner with the super chats. I need those super chats.
No, I wouldn't accept it if you tried anyway.
It's a WAM money. I spend it on trips and stuff like that. And
I'll make a peanut butter sandwich.
yeah, a vegan peanut butter sandwich.
Peanut butter is vegan.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But anyway, subjectivity of value is very important. People forget it all the time, which is why we get so many anti-crypto comments. If you don't like crypto, don't buy it. Don't buy it. Don't get crypto.
No one's forcing you to do anything.
And I know the argument, well, you're judging it in dollars. Yeah, because it's easier to explain to most people crypto in US dollars. But when it comes down to it, when the dollar crashes, you base it
Everything
on...
will be in Satoshis.
Well, yeah, you base it on the price of living versus the supply and the demand, etc. So you'll say this many Satoshis for that product. You don't need to base it on the dollar, just like you don't need to base a dollar on the yen or the yuan or the ruble or whatever. You don't need that other currency to base it on. It's just easier. It's more simple than me trying to explain to you, well, today, Bitcoin today is worth this many coffee tables or this many goats. Mm-hmm. It's just, it makes more sense to use dollars for the time being until we adopt. But anyway, I get into this argument every single time. No, crypto is not tulip bulbs. There's no scarcity in tulip bulbs. My God.
We could debate this all day.
There's no scarcity in tulip bulbs. You cannot compare something that grows and you put seeds in the ground and quadruples and goes up tenfold and 100-fold in a period of a certain amount of months. You cannot compare that, or Beanie Babies, which you can supply any amount of and isn't efficient and doesn't have a use case at all, to something that is innovative, that is new, that is revolutionary, evolutionary, that's on the blockchain. It's a ledger on blocks that are frequency, that provided the ability to pay for things like that, never closes, markets never close, and is easier to use in purchasing things than gold and silver, which also can be used as a currency. But I always say, buy gold, buy silver, in my opinion. Also, get into as many cryptocurrencies that you are willing to get into. Just look into them first and do your own due diligence. And of course, look at things like cash flow as well. Don't just look at investments. Don't just look at wealth insurance. Diversify. Bitcoin can be forked forever. So what does that have to do with anything? I'm sorry, but I think you seem like a nice guy, but look, you're making the same mistake that most people make in their attack on cryptocurrency, the same mistakes I made when I first learned about cryptocurrency in 2009, and I've been studying it now for 10 years. And I mean, most people that talk about cryptocurrency heard of it in 2017 and feel like they know everything about it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just, it can be annoying. I predicted Bitcoin in 2009, by the way, that it would kill. Sow a crypto seed like a tulip seed. I'm not going to be able to convince everyone, but I think time will tell on that. And I think people will see. There's a difference between what the government's doing with their cashless society and crypto in general. How do you like my arguments with our chat? It's lots of fun, eh?
Yeah, sure.
Every single time. I like how we're drinking our GMO Powerade versus Gatorade. See? Democracy. See, this is literally democracy right here.
This is what democracy
yeah,
looks like.
Both are red and red commies.
Yeah, no, it's all GMO crap, honestly.
Is there animal products in Gatorade?
No.
Okay. Just testing you.
No.
She's like, oh no, is there?
No, it's just sugar.
It's like some chicken in there, a few horse. Anyway.
It's just massive amounts of sugar.
Rika, the hopeful volunteeress, I might be the only tomato grower on my street. Yeah, because government doesn't want people growing on their lawns. They just want grass. I mean, there's a big conversation to be had about where the idea of growing grass came from versus actually growing your own. Same with like banning people from collecting rainwater and stuff.
Yeah, that's creepy. Like, to me, that's really nuts.
Anyway, this has been fun, everyone. I appreciate you all joining us, and we'll be back with much more on all of this. Make sure to check out AnarchoVegas linked below the video. Make sure to check that out. I really hope everyone that has this conversation wants to argue with me in person maybe about cryptocurrency.
Yeah, that'd be so fun. Well, I'll just have a great old debate at the bar. It'll be so much fun.
You know, it's funny because I've gotten literally thousands and thousands of messages of people saying they're going to kill me. And then every now and then I'll see one of the people at an event, but no one ever does it. I mean, someone tried to kill me last
Okay, let's not go there. Let's talk more about this debate happening at AnarchoVegas.
No, but I mean, seriously though, I find it's interesting because, you know, you get all this hate mail and like the death threats all the time. When it comes down to it, no one actually does it, and I'm glad, first of all. But I have had a few people throw things at me. I was walking through the streets of Winnipeg, Canada, not that long ago.
Well, if I had that face, I would throw things at her.
Yeah, well, she abuses me a lot regarding throwing things at me and hurting me. But I've actually had a lot of things thrown at me out of cars and just F you, Josh, from like complete strangers. So that's always fun. But
that just means that, you know, you're reaching them. And you're pissing them off for a reason. So keep doing what you're doing, bud. Yeah, I just hope they don't reproduce. But anyway, we will be back with lots more on all this stuff. Again, check out AnarchoVegas. I'm looking forward to it. We hope to see lots of you out there. Lots of great speakers. Bo of the Fifth Column will be there, which is interesting because he doesn't do a lot of these kinds of events, and he's huge on social media. Yeah, so. I'm excited. Yeah. I don't agree with him on a lot, actually. Mm-hmm. You know, I watched his stuff, and I definitely can pick out numerous things that bother me about what he says. That's good. But I'm excited to listen to him speak and actually engage in a conversation with him.
That's good, though. I think it's good to see as many people as possible who disagree with a certain person coming out and listen to their side, and they listen to our side, hopefully, and we exchange ideas.
It's pretty funny just because we have been basically told that we shouldn't have our event because it's a huge echo chamber, and people don't realize that, you know, not all anarchists and not all libertarians have the same views. I wish. There are so many differing opinions, and
so many. It's ridiculous, actually, the amount of fighting and
infighting.
It happens with every community, but it's just
it's so unproductive. But at the end of the day, you know, it makes for a very interesting time when we all get together. So that's why y'all should come. You can buy tickets at www.anarchovegas.com and use promo code WAM for 10% off.
Absolutely. So again, thanks for joining us, everyone. And Bitcoin Cash says BCH is flying. It certainly is lately. It's about time. And if you know coiners, don't want to be a coiner, then go ahead, whatever. But I'm going to enjoy losing my crypto in a boating accident. Anyway, thanks for joining us, everyone. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson with Erin Nakamoto signing out from World Alternative Media.
Find the truth, be the change.